Welcome to the Tabletop Sportcast, where we cover the hobby of tabletop sport gaming through interviews, game reviews, and project planning, because the best stories aren't just told, they're played. I'm your host, James Cast, and today we've got an interview with St. Patrick that I recorded earlier this week. And it's a little bit of a longer one, so we're kind of skipping the cold open and going to skip a lot of our normal formal routines and get you right into the interview. Right before we do, we'll just quickly recap last week, episode 252. We talked about play testing with purpose. If you haven't had a chance to listen to that one, it's a good one just to kind of find out like what that role is of the play tester. And it's less about just getting a sneak peek on a game. It's really about providing the right feedback to designers so they can improve the product before it gets its mass release. And we also talked a little bit about the designer's role in this as well. That's to provide really good, tight questions to your playtesters to make sure that you're getting the feedback that you're looking for, and to be very specific in the types of requests that you make of them so that they can provide you the right feedback coming back. All right. For any further ado, we'll get into the interview with St. Patrick. All right, we are sitting down tonight with St. Patrick, who is back for yet another annual show where we kind of have jokingly called this our State of the Union show, and a good chance to catch up with St. But St., how are you doing, my friend?
I am well, and if that is how we describe it, I'm glad that we don't have a hobby congress that I have to speak to live, because I don't know if I could handle the view, the booze, and the
That's right.
and the
Nobody's
rising of the applause from half
standing.
the crowd, and then half the crowd wants to sit down and not stand. God, the State of the Union is not a thing. Even if I were at the height of politics, it's not a thing that I would look forward to doing every year. That is for sure.
Agreed. That is not an easy task in any way, shape, or form. This will be a lot less tame, or a lot more tame compared to that. So,
well, you are a much nicer audience than that. So it's great to be back on the show. Thank you so much for having me.
We usually do this as we've done this historically as a Play.con preview, but obviously no con in Denver this year. So the timing felt a little bit better to catch you on the other side of IndieCon. And hopefully you've finally gotten a chance to recover from what was an awesome event. And how do you feel in retrospect on how everything went?
Oh, I feel fantastic about it. It was such a good time. And I think everyone had such a good time. And we had no problems. It went really well. I think I think my wife planned it well. I basically handled everything that was even tangentially tied to sports or gaming, and my wife handled everything else. And yeah, I think it was the everything else that was really perfect. And the sports and gaming kind of handles itself. Everyone wants to hang out. Everyone likes one another. There were a lot of new people there who were instantly welcomed. Anyone out there who thinks, well, what's it going to be like? How is it going to be? Believe me, you come to these things in Indiana or in Connecticut or in Canton, Ohio, or anywhere else, the APA tournaments, the Strat tournaments, you will be instantly welcomed, and you will wonder to yourself why you didn't do this years ago. However, I don't know that these will last forever. I don't know if they're a fad in our hobby. You know, the price of gas right now in our little small town in Indiana is $5 a gallon, and as of this morning, and as I say every year at the start of the main event at the Car Museum on Saturday, I understand the sacrifice that it takes to be here. I appreciate the sacrifice of being away from home and having to pay for travel and pay for gas and pay for hotel and just the time to be there. And I want to thank everyone again for coming to Indiana. We really do love our little small town here. And it's really, we appreciate that you all allow us to show it off to you once a year. It's very, very nice in that respect. So thank you all very much.
Yeah. It was a great event. As far as Auburn goes, I will say, like, every interaction I've had with folks there in the last 2 years have always been pleasant. So everybody has been really nice that you meet in the different restaurants and in town and stuff. So I've really had some good experiences there. And it's great to get to different parts of the country, right? I always love going to Denver, and,
Yeah,
and now,
definitely.
like, Indiana offers something completely different, and certainly different than us East Coasters are used to, right? So it's a very different experience. And I even forgot to tell you, as I was like driving out there that morning, like, I had finished the audiobook I was listening to, and I was like, yeah, I need something to listen to. And I was like, there's only one obvious choice right now. I got to throw some Scarecrow on and play that as I.
Listen, can I tell you how much I love that album?
It's fantastic.
I really think the song Rain on the Scarecrow is the story of my childhood.
Interesting.
As a song. It's interesting. I was always really affected by that. I like small town, but everybody kind of likes small town.
Sure.
It really could be any town America, but Rain on the Scarecrow and what happens in that song, I saw so many people go through that in the 80s and the 90s. And every time I hear it now, it's affecting. I mean, it's a great album, though. It's a great song. And they really do love him here in Indiana, but probably not like New Jersey loves Springsteen because
Fair.
because, the JCM, he's a little prickly as a human being. I think he and Don Henley are both hard to love too much because they're both a little prickly. And
yeah,
but they're very proud of him. And I think it's probably one of the top 5 albums of the 80s. And that's my opinion, but I'll stick to that.
That sounds good. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is a great track. Absolutely. And I think you're right. It's not one of the hits on the album, but it is probably, one of the underrated songs on it, and probably one of the ones that really gives it more identity too. So,
oh yeah, absolutely.
My personal favorite on that album, and again, it's hard not to love Small Town, but
yeah,
A Rumble Seat is probably my favorite.
Rumble Seat's great. Yeah.
It's a great song. Great song. So,
yeah.
So yeah, I listened to that on the way in. And what's interesting with IndieCon is, and you've been to all of these events, so you know kind of where I'm going with this, but like every one of these events offers a slightly different audience. Obviously, Play.con is very play-centric, not that it's exclusively play, but very play-centric. Dave Gardner's Digital to Dice, which is coming up in a couple weeks, is, a very interesting group of folks that are big fans of Digital to Dice, and it brings in a very good mix. You see different games focused there than you do at Play.con, and then you get to like Gridiron Games, which is another one we've both been to, where it becomes that one's been more of a mix, but still very somewhat APA centric because of Jeff. Yours, I think, is probably the most broad in terms of like nothing stands out as a hey, this is why we're here kind of a game. Like even your own games are not taking center stage there. It feels very balanced.
And I try, if they did, I would kind of be embarrassed, to be honest with you. I want everyone, I think the best thing that you can do at these conventions is to learn new games. And I'm more than happy to show off my own. And I saw my games being played there, so that makes me happy. But I also saw a lot of other games being played as well, and that made me happy. And then I get to learn a couple myself. A few games I only learn at these conferences. So then I relearn them the next year at a conference because the year goes by fast, James. And I think, I want to play this game more than, than I have in the last year. And then I make a point to do that. And because I'm not James Cast and I don't have a schedule hanging on my wall for every half an hour of the evening and what I'm going to play, or an Excel file of my schedule, I more so wing it. And so some games just don't see the light of day, even though I find they're good games. But don't you think that's also partially because we're in this kind of golden era? I think we're towards the end of this golden era of quality, but we're still in the golden era of volume.
Yeah.
And so that's got to be part of it, right?
Oh, I think that's definitely part of it. I mean, I think we're moving further and further away from the pandemic, and I think the pandemic really brought about the golden age. I mean, there was work going in beforehand, before the pandemic hit, but that pandemic and everybody kind of having to be home, and it was like, wow, what can I do? Like, for us as hobbyists in this particular hobby, what better time to be in this hobby, right? It was an opportunity to just jump right in and start getting games and accumulating. And I would have said before the pandemic, I was definitely someone who had my core 3 or 4 games, and those are the ones that I was like, I'm happy with these and I don't need anything else. And now I'm really happy that I've branched out and I've tried other things and I've got this closet filled with games. But to your point, like, that means now that there's stuff that I'll go a year and I'll be like, yeah, that's still can't get to the table. Like, it's still not going to find a way to get there.
And it's a great game, right? I mean, it's a great
doesn't
game.
mean it's a bad game. It just means it's
not.
No,
it's a great game. It could be a game that you would love to play.
Right.
But man, these years go by fast and the hours are less. And there are so many great games. And I don't know if you're like this as well. I think, well, no, you're a little more scheduled. So you're probably not streaky. But like, I will fall in love with a game for a few weeks, right?
Yeah.
And I'll kind of stick with it and I'll kind of ride that game for a while. And then I'll go to something else for a few weeks. And I really do get kind of streaky with how I play and even with what sports I play. Even if I don't stick to the same games, I'll stick to the same sport. And I like certain things at various times of the year. And I wouldn't say that it coincides with what season is in necessarily.
Right.
I just get in a mood and I'll see something, I'll feel something, I'll hear something, and I'll think, man, I want to get basketball or I want to go to baseball or I want to go to football or something like that. And the NFL draft recently had me getting back into football stuff, and it's April, and it's not necessarily football season per se, but I'm a bit of a draft junkie and love all the lead up to the draft and all the podcasts and all the mocks. And, I mean, personally, I'd like to mock draft life, right? You just go through life and you mock draft. Okay, where am I going to go eat this evening with my wife? Okay, at the first pick, we will take Texas Roadhouse. And at the second pick, we'll take, I don't even know even why I use that because I really don't even like Texas Roadhouse.
I was going to say, it doesn't sound like your kind of place.
No, it's not. But I'd like to mock draft life. I mean, I'd like to just go through life like this and mock draft.
It's fair.
We could do
fair.
When I was a kid, James, and I kind of feel like I should have music in the background here, but when I was a kid,
post-production,
and we would go on road trips, my friends and I would just do top fives, like the entire road trip. And we would pull out crazy top fives, to top 5 ex-girlfriends, to top 5 Springsteen songs, to top 5, American states, to top 5 vacations. But to top 5 foods, anything that you could imagine, we would just go around the car and just top 5 everyone. And
we like lists, right?
We love lists as long as we can divide them by 5 or 10.
Exactly.
I think is very important. And I'm not sure necessarily if Casey Kasem started that, but we do like, and this bothers me every time I hear someone ask for a Mount Rushmore, right? Because it bothers me that you can only divide it by 4 or 2.
Yeah.
I need a good 5 or 10. Like,
there you go.
I don't want to hear like the top 80 songs of the year. I want the top 100. I want to see the list of the top 100. So even though 80 is divisible by 10 and 5, okay,
Sure.
math guys, I got it. I still feel like it should go to 100, you know?
Yes, it should
But
go to
yeah,
100.
yeah, I feel that, it's interesting. My wife really views me as a math person, and I was absolutely, a history and an English guy all through school. So, but compared to her, I'm a math person. So and I didn't mean that bad, honey, if you're listening out there.
She will be at some point, I'm sure.
No, it's, when you marry a mental health counselor, you learn a lot about yourself. Even if you don't want to, you discover a lot of things, and it's interesting. But speaking of the pandemic, so we were watching, what is the show on Paramount Plus now? Something like Couples Therapy, I think it is.
Oh, okay.
Being married to, again, a counselor, you watch things like Couples Therapy.
Yeah.
And so they've gotten to the point in the show where the pandemic hits New York, and they're having to do virtual counseling, and everybody's panicking, and the couples all hate being around each other. And during the pandemic, I was a single person. And so I was in my house in my small town, like 5 hours south of Chicago. And the gaming obviously was at a high point. The writing was at a high point. The publishing was at a high point. The magazine sales were at a high point. The game sales were at a high point. Like, I told her, I said, to be honest, the pandemic for me was fantastic. Like, it just depends on your perspective, right? I mean,
absolutely.
I didn't see any of that. And being in a small town at the bottom of Illinois at the time, Chicago had locked down. I went to Chicago once in the pandemic, and it was a ghost town. But the second Springfield locked down my town, everybody went out. Almost as an act of rebellion, I think, in small town America. Everybody went out. No one was masked. No one was going to follow the arrows in Walmart of how to walk up and down an aisle. No one's going to stand 5 feet, 6 feet, 8 feet away because it's an arbitrary amount and who made it up anyway. And so I have never seen so much traffic in my life than I saw in my small town.
Interesting.
But people were also engrossed in their hobbies. And I think we're still in our hobby, we're still seeing the tail end of that. And the board gaming industry is still riding that wave. It's still incredibly popular right now.
Yeah.
And I think for us, for our hobby, if you can throw a square around our hobby, I think our hobby was really, the pandemic was a shot in the arm. I mean, I really think, and it was a reminder to everyone, I think, all across America, no matter what their hobbies are or their desires in life, that maybe a little reorganization of our lives and a little bit of balance ain't a bad thing.
Yeah. It's a good point. And I think that idea of like we're still riding that wave that's where I think we are with that golden age, right? And there's a lot of good content creators. And again, a lot of them didn't come as a result of the pandemic. A lot of them were there beforehand, right? And I've just been able to find the audience, right? There was an audience that was eager, that was looking for stuff, and had the time all of a sudden to kind of dedicate to it. And I mean, it's, somebody who was working full time, right? And what an amazing thing it was when all of a sudden it was like, there's 2 hours in the day where I'm not commuting anymore. I wonder what I could be doing with that time. Like,
I wonder.
I found it. Okay, great. So,
no, I mean, how many guys have we heard say, well, during the pandemic, I got the old Strat games back out, or I got the old APA games back out, and they're still playing today.
That's right.
So it did, I think, bring a lot of people back into the hobby who were already in the hobby. And like I've said before, this whole push of, I will never judge the health of our hobby by how many 12-year-olds are in the hobby. Right. I just don't think, I think we're judging the wrong thing. I think we need 25 or more year customers. We need 30-year customers. And if you start becoming a 30-year customer in this hobby, actively involved, when you're 12, fine. But if
Right.
you start when you're 30 years old, I think that's fine too. I don't necessarily. Is it good to have engaged kids in the hobby? Yes. But I'll say this as well. I think the hobby works the best when you have some kind of nostalgia about it. And I don't know that you have a lot of nostalgia at 12. At 12, I think it's just a fun game, right? And if
Yeah.
you're a sports fan at 12 or 14, you're sort of hitting the height of your sports innocence where you're truly a mega fan for the sport and the love of the sport.
Yeah.
When you get older, you get more jaded about sports because sports are going to naturally change.
Mm-hmm.
And God knows that the world does not like change. And no matter what change it is, it doesn't matter. Change is bad. And that's our view of sports, is that any change is bad if the sport isn't exactly what it was when I was, 12 years old, when I was 14 years old.
Right.
Any change is bad. And so then we have nostalgia hit us. A lot of our favorite athletes are retired, they're no longer around, and then they start to pass away. And so then we really hit that nostalgic mark where we want to get back into this. And then I think we become long-term customers. Even if we do start at a young age, don't we all have a period, maybe college or right after, where you're kind of out of the hobby for a while and you first get married, or you might first have kids, or just college is a lot anyway and you sort of put the stuff away, or it's back home at mom's house while you're off at college, or
Life gets busy, right?
Yeah, life gets very busy at that time. I think as long as we have enough people coming back or discovering the hobby in their late 20s, early 30s, I think we're in great shape.
And even potentially later, 40s, early 50s, right? Like you can still get your 25 to 30-year customers. So
absolutely.
Going back to like the idea that we may be in like our golden age, what are some of the things that you think are risks that are out there of what could kind of bring that to an end? Whether you think they're happening already or whether they're like things that you're kind of like watching, because as content creators, even as a game creator like yourself, those are things that I think we all kind of like are looking around and trying to figure out, like, what brings this wave to an end, right? Are there things that you're looking at and thinking about?
Well, it's a big question.
Sure is.
But it's a good question. It's a fine question. And I don't just, oh my gosh, I don't just want to say AI, because that's the most controversial topic in our hobby the last 2 months, it seems like.
Sure.
I think using AI the wrong way in game creation, and I think this great desire to create, and the fact that we can create now so quickly and that it can look pretty good doesn't always mean that it is good. And I think we're seeing a golden age still. We're at the peak of the golden age as far as volume goes, as far as the amount of game options that you have. But I wonder if we're almost over the ledge on game quality. And part of that is, you've heard me say it a million times, being a game creator and a game owner, 5% of that is the creation of the game. It's a lot of fun. It's a cool process. It makes you feel really energized. And, when you discover a new thing or you think about a new mechanic, it's exhilarating.
Yeah.
95% of that, though, is what happens after the game is released. 95% of owning a cards and dice game, and even a computer game, I think, although I don't own one, is, the maintenance of that game. It's okay. Now, are you going to spend perpetuity releasing sets, releasing seasons, because you're going to have to work on those a lot? And in my opinion, and I know by how things operate out there that there are some that don't agree with this. In my opinion, once you have released a game and people have paid for it, there's a part of you that now owes them content for the game for a pretty long time. I used to say in perpetuity, forever, because I personally feel like I'm going to be doing this until I die. But I know a lot of guys out there shut down their games when they're in their 80s, 85.
Sure.
All right. I think that's all right. I mean, how do you argue that, right? You can't argue that. But I don't necessarily think that you have a game, you release the game, you take money, and then you have a brand new game in 2 weeks. And you release a game, you take money, and you have a brand new game in 3 weeks. And then, I mean, where is the content? I don't want this to become abandonware in any way, shape, or form in the tech world. I just think it's morally wrong, to be honest with you. You shouldn't take money and then abandon the game. And I get the love. I get the joy to create.
Sure.
It is a lot of fun. It is a wonderful process. And I do also think just because you think of a new mechanic does not mean that that's a game. Like that's, I don't, there's a lot. There's even some people that have multiple basketball games or multiple baseball games or multiple football games. Some of them, you know, the games are very different, very, very different. Okay, I can understand that. But they're also not necessarily based on one mechanic that it feels like they just had an idea for a mechanic and then they said, okay, well, I'll make this a game.
Sure.
I think we know the gamers a lot after we release a game. And frankly, to be honest with you, you know, the gamers don't owe us anything at all other than the respective kindness. I mean, because we're all human beings. And so we should all just be kind to each other. But other than that, we owe them, you know. And if I abandoned the game, if I didn't make a set for a year or 2 or 3 or not ever again, God, I'd feel horrible, James. I mean, I can't.
Understood.
I mean, so I'm seeing, my point here is I'm seeing a little bit more of that kind of thing happening, and I hope it doesn't become a real problem.
Sure.
I really don't. I hope. And I'm also seeing a rush to get games out as well. And you really don't need to rush. I think both of mine took approximately 2 years each.
Yeah.
To sort of really formulate the whole concept. There's no need to rush. There's no need to. And listen, even if you wait 5 years, though, you're still going to make typos. You're still going to make mistakes. Things happen. You're a human being. I mean, stuff's going to be stuff.
Perfection
right?
is difficult.
Oh my gosh. Yes. And I'm not even close. And so you're still going to have stuff, but,
Sure.
And
but
as
you're
long
right.
as you can,
and I covered this last week on my episode around the play testing, and you know, it's a process, right? Like you said, like it's a process to create a game. It's a process to create any kind of content. You do multiple forms of content too. They all involve a process. It can't be just a quick, like, I got it, it's good, throw it out there, move on, right? Like I think I love when I'm engaging with game designers, which I get to do at all these events that people are running, and hear the process. You know, I can tell when I've got a really good game designer, and it may not even be a game that I enjoy playing, right? But I can hear that there's a really good designer behind it, because I can hear the process that they're going through. And that's something that I can appreciate, is to know that, like, I know who I can trust, that, you know what, the math is spot on. I can trust that the components are good. I can trust that the mechanics are sound, because I know the development has taken place. Yeah.
And I said, I mean, in Connecticut, I'm going to talk to, Clay Dresslock, who I just love, who I mean, he and I just really get along. Like, a pack of thieves. Like, we are good. And Joe Bryan as well. But as I say all of this, he's got in mind like 3 more baseball games, right?
Right.
But I can tell you that he also had them in mind a year ago, and he had a couple of them in mind 2 years ago. And none of them are anything like anything that we've ever seen in the hobby. I mean, they're totally different. Totally, entirely different.
Yep.
So it's interesting in that respect, even though he could eventually have out 3 or 4 baseball games, you won't recognize that they're like any other games. So I don't feel like, and I want to state this clearly, I do not feel like he's doing that. I do not feel like he's a person who is going to have abandonware, especially when in his one baseball game, he's released every year so far back to 1918, and I think is going to try to get back to 1899. So you, absolutely,
in that case, it's really he's gone as far as he can, right? Because he needs more stats available to be able to do what he needs to do.
Yes.
So yeah,
he and the great Joe Costa, who I just think is fantastic and smart and hilarious and just wise about these things. He and Joe have been going over the baseball numbers which is why he hasn't already gotten back to 1898, because they're sort of not arguing, but they're sort of talking intellectually about, well, whose numbers are we using? They're not exactly the same, and how do we handle it, and what's the right way to do it? And that's been the case for almost a half a year now. And that's because he's conscientious. That's because he really does care about what he charges people for. He doesn't just sort of slap it on his page and throw it out there. He could have used, the numbers that we have on one website or something, and he could have made cards, and he could have gone back to 1898 a year ago, and no one would have really noticed, but he would have noticed. That's the problem. He would have known. And he's such a good guy, and he's such a conscientious guy, that I don't think that Clay would ever do that about any game for his customers.
Yeah.
And so even though he will have 3 or 4 baseball games out at some point, I can tell you they've been thought about for years, not for weeks. So he is definitely not in that boat. And so it can be very different. But I'm afraid we're starting to see more and more and more of the throw a game out there, and we'll just see kind of what happens. And then I'll have a new game in 2 weeks. And
yes,
I got to be honest with you, if we're at the end of the golden age, as you asked, that's going to end the golden age of quality right there.
I think that's an interesting thing about the quality versus the quantity, because I agree with you that there are places where I don't necessarily see the quantity stopping, but I'm not sure if the quality will continue at the same level. And that's somewhat, I think, the standard that good designers are going to hold themselves to, is to make sure that they've got quality out there and not just the quantity, but the availability of statistics, the availability of AI, the ability to just, have storefronts, like all of those things that didn't exist 15, 20 years ago when you look back to game designers who were around back then, it was a struggle, right? To get like a quality product out to folks. And now I think the path is so much easier that it has opened the door to just about anybody. Now the question becomes, like, is it the best path forward for everybody, right?
Yeah, right.
So, and that goes for lots of things, right? That's content creators, that's game creators, that's, people who are creating like Facebook groups and all those kinds of things. Like there's a lot of it that's easy to do, but not necessarily delivering a quality product at the same time.
It reminds me of gosh. So, as you know, I taught high school history for 10 years.
Right.
And I taught AP and IB. So I taught the top 5% basically of the school.
Oh,
and they, not all of them because they knew a little better, but a few of them every year would ask, well, I have the right to an opinion, right? And I used to say, yeah, oh, yes, absolutely. In a republic, based on the foundations of democracy, yes, you have the right to a really terrible opinion. And the kids used to laugh at that and think, yeah, well, but the point is, just because you can does not always mean that you should. And democracy, the internet, the dawn of the internet, I think my college got it in 1994, was a great step toward democracy.
Yes.
But we've also seen all the things in our society that have been laid to waste because of it.
Agreed.
And although there is a gigantic list of pros that can be made, the list of cons might be twice as long and as impactful. Being able to publish yourself now in game form, in podcast form, in talk show form, in channel form, in personality form, be careful what you ask for, because a friend many years ago told me it's going to be a crowded market for everything, but as long as you're good, as long as you are the best at it, you'll stay at the top or you'll rise to the top and you'll stay there. But there is going to be a junkyard in every industry of the people that in essence tried it and can't hang.
Mm-hmm.
And because all of these things, as you know, hosting a podcast, having a channel, creating a game, writing, being able to have the skill of writing as a human and only a human is hard. It's not easy. It does take skill. It takes patience. It takes time. And not everyone can do these things. And a person can be a chef or a microwave, guy, right?
I can cook food, right? Like
yes.
Versus
either way you're cooking,
it
is not the same thing.
No.
And so I think we have to be careful of what effect that sort of thing has in our hobby. And again, this is not an anti-AI argument at all. I think AI is wonderful for certain things. I think, gosh, if you're even an amateur coder right now, I think you're going to get to a point where everyone can sort of code their own apps on their own OS at some point. And I don't think that's necessarily a terrible thing.
That's the democracy side of it, right? It's making it available to everybody. And now it's a question of what do people do with it? And unfortunately, as you have pointed out with things like the internet, you're going to get good and you're going to get bad. And you're probably going to get more bad than you're going to get good.
Absolutely.
But the old adage of the cream rises to the top, right? Like there's some truth to that. And I can remember going back years ago, like somebody asked Chipper Jones about, it was right around the time he was finishing up his career, and they were talking about the fact that was as people were really getting honed in on, no, my kid's got to play one sport like for like 10, 12, 13 years, and that's how they're going to get good at it. And he was like, that's not true. He's like, I don't care if there's a good baseball player out there, they can start playing at 16 and they're going to be a good baseball player. Like, they don't need to start at 5. And that, I think, there's a lot of truth behind that. We just have to, and that to me is, I think, one of the risks of the hobby is what brought us all together was things like the internet and places like Facebook wow, they're all out there. But it's also now where we run the risk of people being turned off from those things because of the way that the algorithms generate content, the way that AI generates content. And people are starting to be like, I don't know if I want to be part of that anymore. And that's going to start to put us away from each other until we can find what's the new gathering place that we can all kind of congregate, right?
Well, and a problem with that is, and I'll be honest with you, like, there are times where I'll ask you or I'll ask Joe Costa, or I'll ask Tim or somebody else, and I'll say, I'm asking you, but I have a fragile ego, so be nice. Like,
Yeah.
be nice how you answer this to me, because it hurts, But yes, anyone today can go out there and have a band and have an album.
Yeah.
Or have a podcast, or have a channel, or have a game. But be prepared if some people come back and say, hey, pal, you can't sing. You can't play guitar. Like, you're no good. And that's democracy as well. Like, that's
true.
part of everyone being able to put themselves out there, is the arrows that at times come back from the opposite direction.
Good point. Very good point.
So you have to be careful about how you want to do things. And it's one thing, I mean, if you're a good person, if you're a nice person, if you're a well-meaning person, people are very forgiving in many ways and encouraging. True. If they see one sort of vulnerability and one thing about you that is not likable, it's like vultures at times. And not just in this hobby, like all across the world.
Right.
And every field and everything. People love to put other people in their place, even when it's not a very redeeming human quality.
It is a human quality.
It is a human quality. That it is, my friend. But, I've begun really detaching from the MSM and from being online so much in certain places, and really just trying to focus in on the things I want to do that bring some kind of joy and happiness. And I have stopped watching any show that I feel like is ultra violent. These new shows all have torture in them for some kind of reason.
Yeah.
I don't know why there are these long torture scenes in the bottom of a house with one light hanging from the ceiling, with some guy tied up with a bag over his head and he's being slapped. I can't watch it anymore. I can't watch any of these kinds of shows with any violence in them whatsoever. So I feel like I'm the old man, but I'm watching things like the Waltons again, like a complete binge. No kidding.
Little House on the Prairie, right?
Well, yeah.
I need wholesomeness again.
Just things that don't sort of fight with the spirit anymore. I'm tired of being aggrieved. I'm tired of sort of fighting things that you're never going to defeat. So
True.
And this gaming hobby really does make me happy. And the people in it, I think 95% are so fantastic. Like,
oh yeah,
everyone who was at IndieCon was outstanding the entire weekend. And we had so many laughs, and we had so many just really good games happening, and so many conversations about talking about the things we loved about these games and the new games and the old games we used to play, and just a real heartfelt bonding experience, which is one of the highlights of all of these things.
Speaking of new games, you've got a new game, and I think it kind of had its unofficial debut at IndieCon, even though it had actually been released a little bit before that. But let's talk about some matchup basketball.
Oh, basketball. That was last week's game. Now I have Spitball. Matchup Spitball this week. No, just kidding. No,
I'm writing that down. Hold on.
And we did release Matchup Basketball. I've always been a sort of football and basketball fan. I've had this idea for basketball for years, didn't do anything with it, partially because there are really good basketball games out there. And where I didn't think in the college football space there was sort of anything like what I thought there should be.
Yeah.
There are really good basketball games out there, and I've helped Joe Bryan do the college stat files for Bank Shot, and I still am, to be honest with you. I still want that game to do really well. It's a great game, and I think Joe is a fantastic human being. But I had this thing in my mind where you're sort of part of what happens is automated, part of it is manual. It comes from these sort of categories of charts where a lot of things can happen. It didn't just come from like one player card where all of his potential actions are split up between 0 and 100, and it's a gap game from that point, and it's all going to come from the same place. I sort of wanted to take the volume of stats that we have and turn it into options. Like it could, you may have to take a shot, you may have to force a shot, you may want to manually shoot the 3, even in an automated game. You may have to go to the back and run out the pace plays, which is going to be the pace of the team. You may have to do a lot of things. You may have to depend on your stars, on the star charts. But it sounds like there are a lot of charts, and there aren't. I mean, there are, but there aren't. Each team is one page front and back, and all of that team's charts are on that one page. So no, it's not this huge, space taker, which is going to be these big, gigantic charts as if it's, the
or
White House
big results book
room. Yeah. No, it's not that at all. It all comes off the fat cards and the dice. The dice are extremely important, as are the fat cards. There are over 300 fat cards, so that you have a lot of variety in what happens in the game. And you can do almost everything that you can do in basketball, but I feel like it's got a lot of personality to it. And we're able to do things like, if you want to do that famous moment in Boston history where Bird steals the ball, right? Where Bird steals the ball on the inbound, he passes it to Johnson, and Johnson scores.
Right.
In most basketball games, you have to actually steal the inbound pass, then you have to roll that it's Bird, then you've got to roll that Bird passes, then you've got to roll that he passes to Johnson, then Johnson has to shoot, and then Johnson has to make the shot. So you have to do all of those things as individual actions. What I envisioned was that you would have one line on, it would be the team defense star chart, where it would say the 12 roll would be Bird steals the ball, passes it to Johnson, and Johnson scores. And so you could put that whole sequence into one play as a sequence itself.
Yeah.
So we can do that with this game as well. So it's very personalized to fit the team, and we're doing college and pro. And the thing that I think we've decided recently also is that we are doing high school as well. So
I did see that.
I've started to gather an immense amount of basketball information from high schools across Illinois, Indiana, Missouri, and Kentucky. Mainly, most of them will be from Illinois. We're sort of doing Illinois high school basketball with the help of Brian Hoxie, and with a little bit of help also from Brad Fowler. But Brian Hoxie is a sports journalist in Illinois, and so he's helping out with sort of his part of the state as well. And we're I'm supposed to go to the IHSA offices in June for 2 days and just copy files. And so I already have that scheduled, and I already have that planned. So we do not just rely on things that are online for all of our information in any of these games. We do seek, and we do search, and we do research on the ground, on location. And it's really hard to describe the game if you haven't seen the game, but it really does tell you a story, a specific story with player names throughout the entire game. And you can really imagine that happening in your head. And one of the things that I wanted to do as well, somehow we kept it to a 2d6 game. Which I started doing on day one and said, okay, we're just going to start with 2d6, but I'm going to have to change this in a week. Surely we're going to have to add in 10s or 12s at some point. And for some reason, we just didn't ever have to. And so it is a 2d6 game. So you're never having to really change dice in your hand, which actually saves you more time than you think it does.
A lot.
And
yeah.
And you can do After you know how to play, after you have, after you know where on the chart you need to look at and you're going well, you can play a pro game in well under an hour and a half, and you can play a college game in about an hour.
Nice.
Which for a full basketball game with full stats, I think is pretty good as well. And if you're a quick play person, we have that option as well with full stats. And so you can play a game in a much shorter amount of time and get any stat that you would like to get.
It's pretty cool. Obviously you built a pretty good audience with a matchup college football. And to your point, and I can remember these conversations with you at play.com about trying to decide, do I go pro? Do I go college? Do I mix the two? And that idea that there really wasn't anything present in a market that was strictly college football, other than like a bowl bound or something like that from years and years ago, which wasn't even really a college based game. It was a college version. And there was a lot of this out there, right? College teams on a pro engine.
Yeah. And that doesn't work. I mean,
Right.
You can do it and have it'll have a score and the stats will be stats. But I never felt like it worked.
Right. I would agree.
Like it should work. I say the pizza example all the time. I probably used this example for 3 years in a row on your show. But if you imagine, the statistical variance in college sports, it is a 12-inch pizza. In pro sports, it's a 9-inch pizza. And so if you build the 9-inch box, it is very hard to cram a 12-inch pizza into a 9-inch box. But if you build the 12-inch box, it's really easy to slide a 9-inch pizza into a 12-inch box.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like the 12-inch box was out there.
Agreed.
Man, the variation in statistics in college sports can be tremendous. If a defense, for example, averages 4 yards a carry that they give up in, say, college and pro, the league leading team in the NFL is probably going to give up about 3.3 yards a carry. In college, it's going to be about 0.5 to about 1.5. So you can imagine what it takes to make that happen in game form. And the highs are that way as well. So I feel like the pro game, and believe me, the pro games that are out there are fantastic.
Right.
I like a lot of them, a lot. And they're outstanding. But I didn't feel like any of them sort of fit college well. There are some good pro and college basketball games out there, but I still wanted one that did the things that we do in our game as well. And I just think it's a unique way to look at basketball and to do basketball. And I've been super happy. Everyone that has played the game so far has really liked it a lot, which you never know until you know.
Yeah.
So you always want to build the game that you want to play, because if no one likes it, you still like it. So that's what you should always do. You should never build the game and think, well, I don't think people will like this or this or this. You should be conscious of that in mechanics when you ask, is this too much? Is it too hard? Is it too complex? You should ask those questions.
Yeah.
But as far as just the general construction of the game, you need to build the game that you would like to play for the remainder of your life, because if no one likes it, you will be the only one that plays it for the rest of your life.
Agreed.
So you don't know.
And there will be an audience for the game that you enjoy. There's other people who will enjoy it as well.
Yeah, you definitely always hope so.
Exactly. Let's talk about the flow of the game real quick, comparing the two, right? Because maybe not everybody has gotten the basketball game yet, but they might have a larger audience that's seen the football. The flow from what I've seen has been that, obviously, and the sports flow differently to begin with, right? So the first thing you're always trying to capture is, does this feel like football? Does this feel like basketball? And obviously, if I think about the football game, I'm breaking the huddle. We chose the play, right? You're gonna go on your play calling sheet, figure out the play. Now you're going to go to your fact deck, and you're going to go to a specific fact deck to determine for this particular play, let's see what the result is. And then you're going to use the dice to figure out the specific result that we get from the team sheets by looking at those matchups that we have in football.
Right.
Basketball, from what I've seen, now obviously we're not calling plays in basketball, right? The fact deck becomes, instead of a results kind of deck, it now is more driving the action and telling us what's happening on the floor, right?
Well, if you've played the football game before, you will get the gist of the basketball game very quickly.
And what are some of the things that people are going? Okay, cards look the same,
kind of the same. There are still matchups on about half the cards where you're still matching up, say, your point guard one's offense against the point guard one's defense.
Got it.
But we also split that up a lot, so the point guard one may drive the lane, and he's going to be matched up against another
power
player,
forward or center,
on defense as well. And then you'll roll a 1d6 for each guy and to see who wins the matchup, and then the result is at the bottom.
Nice.
You don't have to worry about a stack of cards or how many cards. I like those games. I think it's a smart way to do it, where you have a certain amount of cards handles the whole clock. And so you don't have to keep. I despise in games having to keep a clock. And this is just me. I know there are people out there that love that. Okay, I'm going to take off 10 seconds. I'll take off 15 seconds for this kind of play. I'll take off 25 seconds for this kind of play, and love that.
Right.
Great. I feel like I'm spending half of the game doing the clock.
Yeah.
So I thought it was really smart when a few of the guys out there said, well, in my game, we're just going to use a card stack. The problem that I started to see was no one ever knew how big that stack should be.
Yep.
And if they did, they forgot. And then the pro stack is not the same as the college stack. The men's stack isn't the same as the women's stack. And then the high school stack's a whole other thing, right? And now everybody is confused because somebody says, well, I'm getting a little bit high scoring with that stack. I'm going to use 5 cards less. And now we're all mixed up.
Agreed.
So we use, so every card is worth a certain amount of ticks in the game, and we use the ticks as timing. So whenever you start the game, just grab a handful of cards and flop them down there. You do not worry about counting as timing. It'll be the ticks on the cards, and then every team chart takes a certain amount of ticks as well. And then the pace play runs on the back. The ticks are based upon if the team is either slow or fast. So
Princeton versus Loyola Marymount.
That's the classic example. Yeah. Yeah. Right. So Princeton's pace play charts may have them taking 8 possessions that will take 19 ticks.
Wow.
Where Loyola might take 14 and they might take 8 ticks. So they're running a much faster pace, right? But it also allows you to base the pacing not upon the era, but upon the team. So you really do zoom in on the pacing of the team. And you don't really know who's going to control the pace because you have to roll to see whose pace plays you're actually going to use at that moment in the game.
Nice.
So it's not roll, but it's dependent upon who's on offense in that moment, right? So Princeton may control 3 out of the 4. Or Loyola may control 3 out of the 4, or they may each control 2, or it may be 0 to 4. And one just ran the pace of the game, the entire game. So you don't really know. That allows the variety as well. Like the football game as well, you also sort of write your roster down in the beginning, and you don't have to be concerned at all, with who you're going to bring out in 2 minutes and who you're going to bring in. So you don't necessarily do subs. It'll ask you on the card. It'll have you shoot with point guard 2.
Okay.
So it'll bring the backups in automatically and kind of have them do actions the right amount of time in a game that they should be. And you also kind of control who you're focusing on that game by the use of key players. So you will assign A, B, C, and D. Usually it's in scoring order, but we also vary that up a lot. And there's a chart in the back as well if you want to roll for that.
Okay.
Because you don't want to turn a player into a monster that just dominates every game.
Unless you need
Michael
to.
Jordan. Well, Michael Jordan also had some bad games.
I was thinking more like a Pete Maravich or a Will Chamberlain, right?
Yeah, well, those are the two that I talk about in the rule book extensively, actually. Yeah.
For obvious reasons, right?
Yes. And the rule book is available for free. We have it in the files of the group on Facebook and Delphi. And so you can read the rule book for free. There's not really a free version of the game this time like there was last time. I don't know that it served its purpose the way I wanted it to. It allowed people to try it out. That was the point, was just you can use the free version to sort of try out a half of a game and just see if you like part of the mechanics and the use of the cards, the use of the teams and all that kind of stuff. I had never intended people to actually only play the free version of the game, not because I want to sell games, but because it's not the best version of the game.
Right.
And it's not what I wanted everyone to see of the game. The game is meant to be played with the fat cards and the dice to really max out. And I feel like if you're playing the free version of Matchup College Football, then you're really only playing a game that's half as good, or maybe not even half as good. And so I felt like that was an unintended consequence of allowing there to be a free version of the game. So I just decided not to do that. And it would have been a lot more work to build the free version of the game. I just didn't want to do that this time. I didn't.
Well, even the free version of Matchup College Football obviously involves a lot more dice rolls. It's a longer game to play. The game was greatly improved by the fact deck. It was improved yet again when you added additional expansions to the fact deck to give more variety on things like the matchups and different types of plays. So I guess from that experience, you're able to learn. And also, we're talking about the flow of a basketball game requires something different. And when it does. If it's easy for a basketball game to become like a dice chucker where it's like, man, how many times do I have to roll dice in this? You kind of want a fact deck. And most of the really good basketball games use fact decks for a reason. Right?
And though I think it's a very detailed game, I'm trying to think right now. I don't think many of the plays take more than one roll. Maximum would be 2 if there is sort of a half and half, or if you have to manually shoot. But I kind of like manually shooting sometimes in a game. Okay. I kind of like to see in my head he's going up with the ball to shoot, and then my roll determines, and it's not an automatic make, it's not an automatic miss. You have a lot of those in the game that are automatic, but every so often you have to manually shoot, and it's like, oh, to me it's always exciting when you have to. Or you can choose to not run a play off the facts, and you can choose to manually shoot the 3 a certain amount of times a game, depending on how many times that team actually shot the 3. So there are still some choices. It's still a spectator game. I would never not call it a spectator game.
Right.
And I like spectator games.
Yep.
But there are still enough choices to make it interesting. I always believe that you should have reasons to call timeout on offense or defense, and there are reasons in this game as well. So you do have some choices.
With the with the football game, obviously it makes the ability to not have to worry about the substitutions in a football game is a huge lift in terms of time management for your game playing, right? Because we're talking, 22 guys on the field at any one time and pretty deep rosters in most cases, right?
And it changes every play. And
it changes every play.
And I don't know any gamer who plays a a football game realistically.
Realistically.
0.
Agreed.
Because if you watch a college game and you look at the snap counts at the end of the game, you have backups who play more than the starters, just because it's how the game sort of played itself out.
That's a good point.
And I don't know any gamer who makes the subs between every play like they should to be realistic.
Yeah.
So because we don't do that, and because we've sort of agreed as a hobby that we're not going to do that, why don't we then make it as realistic as possible and just have the cards call on the sub?
Nice.
And they do.
In the football game, do you find ever, as the designer, right? Do you ever override those substitutions like, hey, it's the final 2 minutes of the fourth quarter, the backup quarterback shouldn't be the guy who's handling? Or do you just kind of say, well, in this particular case, maybe there's a storyline of why that guy's in the game right now?
With the quarterback is the main case.
Okay.
I only roll at the start of the half.
Okay.
So I don't roll him for every play, but I will roll at the start of the half just to make sure that he's in the game and he's not hurt or he's not benched or whatever.
Got it.
And a lot of times, if you have a case where on the finder, your quarterback is 1 to 19 and the backup is just
20,
just one number, I may roll for the quarterback 1/2 out of every 5 or 6. And even then, he probably doesn't come in, right?
Right.
But I feel like the quarterback is hit and out for a play enough times in the game where he'll still get his numbers by the end of the year, even if he doesn't ever start a half.
That's a good point.
So that's the kind of thing that can happen as well. Now, with running backs and wideouts, I think the way we remember sports is not accurate, right? So this is a diatribe that I will not go on right now, but
you're right.
We tend to think when the game is on the line, and I mean on the line for like the last 5 minutes, listen, even the last play. I mean, Eli to Tyree. Who's Tyree? Who is this cat? Right?
I believe it was his first catch of the season was that catch, right?
Something like that.
Yeah.
But tell me that you would have chosen that, and tell me that you would have probably come off that in the game, but you shouldn't. So no, I never change it, because I mean, there are so many games that you've watched where the person who gets the shot at the end of the game is Steve Kerr or John Paxson and not Michael Jordan.
Right.
I mean, Jordan may make the pass or he may be a decoy, but he doesn't get the shot. There are so many times where the pass into the end zone goes to the third receiver, not the first.
Yeah.
I think with the Bears last year, I think all those guys caught a big touchdown at some point at the end of a game.
Sure.
Not the same person. So
now
football,
let's go over to basketball where there's now all of a sudden a different dynamic, right? You're going to provide us matchups most of the time. You kind of called that out, that the cards are going to call out the matchups. You're going to, obviously, I'm going to also sometimes have point guard 2 against center 1 and things like that are going to pop up, right? But now we've got this other dynamic where, what about foul trouble? So does the rules allow me to manually override if I have to because of foul trouble? Maybe I don't want this guy in the game right now. Is that something that's allowed?
There are 2 mechanics in the game. On the bottom of every fat card is what I call a reallocation. So there's a reallocation for points and shots. There's a reallocation for rebounds and blocks. There's a reallocation for turnovers and assists. And then there's a reallocation for fouls. They're small, but they're at the bottom. And so what happens is you can either play a player safe or you can play a player out. So if a guy, for example, fouls out, what happens is if you're playing a player safe and that player is called upon in the game to say, take a shot, you reallocate it, offense and defense. You reallocate it at the bottom of an old card or the next card. And so if you're, say, playing Michael Jordan safe because he's in foul trouble and he's let's say he's your SG1. So Michael Jordan, we're going to play him safe. We get a shot by Michael Jordan. I pull over an old card and it'll say point shot is PG1. So it's Armstrong and it's not Jordan. So you just reallocate the action. Same on fouls. If you're playing safe and you reallocate it and it still says that player, it counts.
Got it.
So it's an extra wall, but he's not 100% in the clear on offense or defense.
Okay.
Not 100%. Because as long as he is on the court, he is still at risk.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you play the player as out or he's not involved in the game, that can happen as well. He's not on your roster that night. Or you've decided, 3 fouls by halftime, he needs to be out. Then you'll reallocate until you get a new player.
Okay.
Which is usually the first card. Like, it's very rare that
you run a couple of them.
Reallocate it and it ends up being, the same player. And so you can still play a guy out. You can still play a guy safe.
Nice.
From doing all of this. Yeah, absolutely. You can still switch defenders. You can do all of that stuff. All of that is in the advanced rules. And there are still things where at the end of the game, you have some options to make. So you can still choose to shoot the 3. You can still call the timeout, which will send you to the charts where your stars are most likely to be. So you can still strategize that aspect of it, even though you start the game, with your 12-man roster in place.
Nice. And I think most of us as gamers, we really love when games have things like special results, special charts, like rare plays, all those kinds of things. People really like to see those happen, but they're so generic most of the time, right? And it's like, well, my team can have this result play, but that would never have happened for this team in that particular game, right?
Well,
whereas with yours, these are personality driven.
They are. And I'm fine with writing a story, right? So I'm fine if maybe, how do you do rare plays? So what is a rare play? You get into that whole thing. And so we have rare plays in both games, which I think the rare plays in the football game are really rare players. And things like halfback passes and little wrinkles in what the team did that year. But it also allows us to really write into the story the weird things that the team actually did that year.
Yeah.
In basketball, it's tough because rare plays are usually technical fouls or they're flagrant fouls or there's a fight or there's injuries. But there has to be a stopping point when it becomes too personalized. Like, we don't have a rare play where Ron Artest goes into the crowd and punches a guy, right? We don't necessarily have the Malice at the Palace as a rare play because I feel like that's a very specific incident rather than a play possibility. So you do have to sort of, there is in 1985, Indiana, if you're on the pace play and you're on your opponent's chart on the pace play and you roll a 24, which is a 46 perfect score, Bobby Knight actually complains about the call, gets very angry, and throws a chair across the floor. So it does allow us to specify on the team sheets for that team what does actually happen.
Nice. So, yeah, and I think that's the key, right? Like, we can still have like a Bill Laimbeer be a Bill Laimbeer, right? Like, you're going to get an opportunity.
I should also
to see
say,
that.
I should also tell everyone that's on the 85 chart because it actually happened in 85. The chair incident happened during 85. It won't be on the other Indiana charts, but you can specify. You can specify things like that when you do team-specific charts rather than game-specific charts.
Not exactly. And are we going to see more variety of charts on the team charts for basketball because of just the nature of basketball versus what you had for football?
Yeah. I mean, there are still, I say variety. basketball, like any sport, still has its things. It's either going to be a 2-point shot, a 3-point shot, a free throw, a rebound, a steal, a block, a turnover, a foul. Outside of those things, there's not a lot of other things that happen on a basketball court.
Right.
But I'm hoping that the storyline that is written into the charts sort of allows you to see the game in your head and to see that specific player doing that specific action.
Nice. So what does the roadmap look like? You've talked about how you're going to support your games, right? So let's talk basketball. Right now, we have out one pro season and a college season coming very soon, right? So
yes, very soon.
So what's out for pro?
It is 2011 pro season, and we started with that season not because it's necessarily an all-timer, although it is interesting because LeBron James took his talents down to South Beach and that year and then lost in the championship to Dallas. The top record in the NBA was the Chicago Bulls, who had the MVP in the hometown boy, Derrick Rose, who went to high school in Chicago. And the Spurs were still the Spurs, except Manu Ginobili was actually the star of the team that year. And so it's in Tim Duncan's later years. And so he's on the back end. And so Manu is really the star. And rookie of the
we're in the later years of Kobe at that point still, right?
Yes, yeah. And the defensive player of the year was Dwight Howard, who was really good on offense as well, still at this point. So you do see that there's a lot of cool things that we have, I think, forgotten about in that season. But the reason we chose it was because statistically, over the course of NBA history, that is the main line. Like that year is the most average. Yeah. So if you're going to build a game, you want to do it with a season that is the most average so that everything calibrates.
Which is why a lot of baseball games tend to go in that like 75, 76 time frame, right? Because that kind of falls right in the average there as well.
Right.
Now, where are you going to go next for? Yeah. Right, you have to calibrate it. That makes sense. So where are you going with college basketball for your first
college
set?
1985 is going to be first. Then we'll go back to the NBA and do 67. Then we will do I want to do 89 for college next, but I think we need to do this last year. I think we need to do the current seasons in both college and NBA after that.
Oh, okay.
I think we need to stay on top of those.
That's a good point.
They may not even be hugely popular right now, but I feel like we need to have them in the can after every year ends. So I think that's a pretty wise thing to do. We will do 89 college, then we will jump into the 80s in the NBA and do 1983. So then we will do 05 in college. Then I'll probably take a poll for the NBA to see which one we want to do next. Then I will go back to 1990 in college because the most requested team that we have by far in college is Loyola Marymount from 1990.
Makes sense.
So the desire to get 90 out there, I think it's going to be set 4 or 5. I do think we need to do this recent season, though. I do think it's just wise to do it after every year ends and just to have it in the inventory, even if it's not popular now and even if it's not popular for 10 more years when there's some hindsight. I think it's important to have it out there. Also, we're not just going to necessarily do one. And here's what I mean when I say perpetuity. So one of our goals is there are things that you'll see in the first set of a college set, which will be 30 teams. You'll see the AP top 10. You'll see the Elite 8. You'll see the first team All-Americans. You'll see the highest SRS. You'll see the lowest SR. You'll see the highest scoring team. You'll see the top team on defense. And then after that, because there's a lot of overlap in that, of course.
Sure.
We see how many teams we have remaining, how many spots to fill. And then if there is a dominant conference or a popular conference, even more than dominant, we will probably put the whole conference into set one. So with 85, we do that, for example. But what we get to do is there will be a 1985 volume 2. Probably we'll start rotating the years back in within the year. And then there'll be a 1985 volume 3. Depending on how well those go over, we may even get to a volume 4 in some years. But what it does is that we pick a team that year, and it's not always the champion, but we pick a team to focus on. And so in 85, it's Georgetown.
Okay.
Because they were really the best team in the country. And so by the end of set 3, you'll have Georgetown's entire schedule in the game as well. So when we do Bird and Magic, by the end of set 3, you have the entire schedule for both players in the game.
Nice.
So if you want to play them against random teams, you can. But if you want to really run their entire schedule in full play mode, you'll be able to.
That's cool.
And so we're able to do a lot of things.
In that, I'm hearing a little shift from how you've been releasing college football versus what you're going to do for the basketball game, where there was a lot of themed sets for college football, not exclusively, because you were doing like the most recent seasons as a set.
Yeah.
A couple of times you did like, I think the 69, you did like specific year.
Right.
But now
Absolutely.
it's going to be more exclusively, we're going to stick to season sets.
You're going to stick to a season. You're going to have more teams. It takes me about 3 days to do a football team. And that's even automating part of it with Excel and everything still takes me about 3 days. And it takes me about 3/4 of a day to do a basketball team. So I can do them a little faster, partially because I learned what to do and what not to do. But if it were totally up to me in how we do the sets, I would still do them like we do them in Bank Shot, where it's a smattering of teams across history. And I would probably do them in that order as well. I would just probably follow the Bank Shot order, since Joe and I kind of agreed on that, because I'm not very competitive either. I think it would be cool if a gamer were able to say, I want to do a college project and I want to use matchup and bank shot, and you had the same teams and were able to just sort of bounce back and forth and didn't have to worry about what each game has or doesn't have. And I would have rather picked teams from all different year if it were just up to me. But I got the feeling, and I looked at the comments at the time we asked, and people were pretty overwhelmingly for sticking with one season.
Interesting.
Yeah, which is fine with me. We'll still get a lot of teams in, but you can't sort of just start off with a bunch of fascinating teams, right? Because now you guys want a season. So, okay. So now so now everybody's like, oh, 85 is going to be great because there's a lot of good 85 teams, and there are. But now you're going to have to wait for an 89 team until we do 89, and you're going to have to wait for a 90 team until we do 90. You're going to have to wait. You can't sort of just pick and choose them into a set like we did with Bank Shot. But there's still going to be massive overlap in the teams that are available in Bank Shot and the teams that are available here, because I still want gamers to be able to play and use both games. And
cool.
The high school teams, when we're done with that, I think, and we'll have to talk to Keith about this, because to be honest with you, I haven't asked him yet. But I think Brian Hoxie and I want to adapt them to Highlight Maker as well.
Oh, okay.
Because they're not going to be going into Bank Shot, because I don't think Joe wants to do a high school variant of the game, which is fine.
Yeah.
But I also think Bank Shot would really, not Bank Shot, I think Highlight Maker Hoops Prime Time and Highlight Maker Hoops would work really well with these high school teams.
Cool.
Just the way the cards work and the way it operates. And Yeah, I really do. Yeah. So I think we'll make them for matchup. And then after we do the matchup set, it's a pretty fast process to make highlight maker hoops cards. I think Brian and I still have to discuss this all with Brian, but he seemed on board when we discussed it at IndyCon as well.
Yeah.
And so you'll see, another reason to go to these conferences is, the late night talks about what we can do as a hobby are amazing.
Yes.
Amazing. I mean, we worked on Clay Dreslock's basketball game last year till about 4 a.m. And anybody who wanted to gather around could. And you saw the game coming into formation. Now, he's probably not going to have it out for at least another year.
Right.
But it was cool to be there on site and to be sort of scribbling things down with them and sort of, no, how about this? And I think this would be neat if you did this. And then he'll always say, I love Clay. And I'm saying this first before I tell you this. I love that guy.
Yeah.
But inevitably, he'll say something that makes you want to strangle him, right? And so at about 2 a.m. last year, he came out with this line. Would it be neat if the game had no fouls and no free throws? I said, Clay, then it's not basketball.
There you go.
So no, it would not be neat. That's a terrible idea. And I never want to hear those words again. Right. But and the great thing about him is what he's actually doing is this is why it takes him a while, and it's right to. He honestly goes through every single possibility in his head as he's sort of formulating a game, everything, and he questions everything. I told my guys about 2 months ago at the very end of the basketball game, I said, okay, it's done now. Why don't we tear it all down and let's rebuild it and make sure that we want to keep every single aspect that's in there and challenge every aspect and make sure it's all done the right way and make sure it's in the right order and make sure that we even want that chart or if we want another chart in place of that. Like, let's rip it all apart.
Yeah.
And make sure this is what we want.
Very good.
And I think those guys who went through the process with me like the game a lot. But I told them at first, I said, if you've never done this before, it's going to be messy. And I said, there'll be times where you just downright say, this game stinks. Like, this is not good, because it's not going to be, because it's such trial and error and it's experimentation and it's a process, and you build it up and tear it down and you rip it apart and you change it. But I think it's a healthy process. I really do.
Cool. All right. I've used up quite a bit of your time. Let's wrap up. I want to make sure we touch on a couple other things. You've been heads down on basketball for a little while here. What is next that we'll see for college football?
College football is going to be 2025. Volume 3 will be out, I am going to guess, hopefully after this weekend.
Nice.
So maybe Monday that will be out. And then we'll probably do 2025 volume 4. I had committed to 5 volumes.
Oh, wow.
But I didn't know that the release of basketball was going to be as time consuming as it was. And I feel horrible because all these other guys have been waiting on the football sets.
Sure.
And I did not expect to have to devote the time at the end that I had to. And so I haven't had a football set out since I think March, and I feel horrible about that. And so we may just do 4, and then I want to get back to the historical sets, and then I'll drop in 2025 volume 5 later this year at some point. That's just my mind working right now. I'm not sure yet. I haven't decided.
Do you think you'll go pro with the football game anytime soon, or is it strictly going to be college?
I think you may see something special happening this year on Black Friday. I'll say that.
Teaser.
And I think, yeah. I think our Black Friday special may be the NFL debut, which will be a smattering of teams. I just can't do seasons, guys. Again, it takes me 3 days a team. Right. It would take me 90 days to do one season, and then it still wouldn't be the one that you wanted. I mean, it's still, that's just the way things work.
You typically have like 11 teams in a college set.
Yeah.
You're talking like 3 sets just to get the 1 year out, right? So,
and the NFL is going to work, but it's not a main priority. It's a college game, but the NFL will still work. So there won't be like a release schedule for NFL teams. It'll be a thing where my wife will be doing some work at home. It's 9:00. I've got an hour and a half. I'll do part of an NFL team that night.
Okay.
And just sort of, and then when it's all done, I'll release them. Who knows how often? Like there's not going to be any kind of a schedule or a plan. Nice. And I think Black Friday will probably be the debut of high school basketball.
Interesting. Okay.
For a matchup. So I love Black Friday in our hobby. I really think
it's a fun time.
It's the time of the year that should be special.
Agreed.
And we are going to try to do our best this year to make it really special for everyone as well.
Nice. And
so
just to not leave it out, Squared Circle, what do you see? What's the next thing you've been working on, and when do we think
Squared Circle, we're going back to Atlanta, which we will go from the end of the core rulebook through the week before Nitro begins, in the fall of 95. So it'll be about 8 years, but it's really the era of Sting and Luger and Vader and Flair against Steamboat and the debut of the Harlem Heat, but it's the year of the Steiner brothers. It's the years of that sort of era when all of the 80s guys are starting to fade a little bit and the 90s guys are really starting to make their way in and be huge stars. It will be Hogan's first run in Atlanta, the face run Atlanta, and it will end the week before Nitro begins, and then we'll go back up. We'll go back to New York and do 90 through I think 95 as well. So that's going to be an ugly period to monitor. It is the debut of Undertaker. It is Hart against Michaels. Hart and Michaels will probably be the two top guys from that era.
Sure.
But it is also the era of the nonsense. It is the era where, every job had a character. And it is the era of Doink the Clown and the Repo Man and Nails and all of the nonsense ideas, the Red Rooster and the era of where it was really a children's show more than anything else. And I have to monitor every moment of television from that era to make it happen. And it's going to be a slog, man. I'm going to be so happy every time Hart or Shawn Michaels hits the screen, because I'll be like, whoo, finally we get some talent on the screen. No, it's going to be a rough era. Well, Owen Hart as well was fantastic in that era.
That's true. So, he was.
Yeah. And then third, we will go back into the early 90s a little bit. I think third, we're probably going to do ECW.
Oh.
So that'll almost be like a whole new game because there are no disqualifications. How do you incorporate trash cans and tables? How do you dive off balconies?
Fan interaction.
How do you have an entire match outside of the screen of the ring? How do you is going to be the theme of that entire book, because we're going to make a way that it gets done and it gets done the right way. I'm also working on a lot of things for the game every so often. I want to work on a quick play variant of the game that is more of a quicker play variant.
Where not the instant results that you currently have, but giving you like a quicker way to do a match.
Work for what they're supposed to do, The instant results are supposed to play about half your card in Poughkeepsie so that you can kind of get to the point, that you have an MSG card.
Right.
Yeah, so it does exactly what it's designed to do.
You
and
just
it
need
works.
something that's a little bit
That's
more.
kind of in the medium. Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of halfway between the two that still works, but with the sheets that...
So I'm not going to see all the punches and all the kicks, but I need to see a couple of the signature moves take place.
I don't want it to be a new game.
Right.
But I also have this idea of this sort of newer game that is in a spiral notebook, and it's color and looks amazing, yet is kind of loosely based off the game we already have.
Okay.
So you're talking another year and a half, 2 years before that comes out, which I know sounds like a long time to everyone, but it won't be. Like, this time is flying by.
That's true.
And then matchup baseball will be out. No, I'm just kidding.
Not before gymnastics.
So James Cast and I, for everyone out there who didn't get that, have been working on a gymnastics game. For James, are we going on 3 years now?
Yeah, I wouldn't say working on. I would say ideation is still in the ideation
We
stage.
discuss the gymnastic game every so often because we each have zero ideas at this point.
That's right.
And the problem for everyone out there is we don't just want to do a score generator, yet we obviously don't know the name of every backflip, because they all have names. And you don't want to do every backflip. You don't want to roll for every backflip for every gymnast on every floor exercise, and because you would be at the point where you would have to chart then and like actually write out the whole routine, and oh my gosh, I don't think anybody wants to do that. So
we want to, going back to our earlier part of this conversation, we need to deliver quality, and we're not sure just how to do that just yet.
Yeah, we're not sure how to make it realistic, historical, and fun.
Yes.
And fun is an important part of it because there hasn't been a great gymnastics game out there to even think, okay, well, let's kind of compare it to this.
Right. Score generators, absolutely, but not.
Yeah. No. There's some fantastic. If you want to play gymnastics today, Roberto Schiavini has a score generator that is very good. So if that's your thing, yeah, absolutely go with him.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, it's great. But we kind of want something, again, at that halfway point where you're still rolling for something, but it still makes sense and you could still succeed or fail, but yet you could sort of cross eras as well.
Yeah.
And the last thing we talked about for everyone out there, was like, what if you didn't have scores, but you sort of did like I did in the recent skiing game where that was in the magazine, where you're sort of doing a routine for a placement rather than a score, or like that you're going for first place or second place or third place. So and you sort of get ordered based on your performance rather than getting a score, because gymnastics has changed their scoring like NASCAR has, like it's constantly evolving and it's nothing like what it was last time. And so if you're thinking, well, I want to have some Simone Biles and the U.S. team go against, the Romanians from 40 years ago, you're talking about two whole different scoring structures.
Exactly.
So how do we allow for that to happen as well? The bottom line is we are nowhere on this.
Nowhere
at this point.
But we're ahead of matchup baseball.
But we are ahead of matchup baseball, which is probably the game that's not ever going to get built, because I mean, we all have a baseball idea, right, James? And so
absolutely.
The baseball idea that I have would be this really sort of artistic, where each team would sort of be 3 or 4 or 5 pages, and it's like very zoomed in on the team, right?
Interesting. Yeah.
But I would only be releasing. Here's where I lose everyone. I would only be releasing like one team at a time, right? And he laughs for a very good reason, because it's a ludicrous idea. Absolutely a ludicrous idea. But the teams would all look really nice.
Yes.
Like you may have like a rookie Henderson steel chart that has like a nice graphic that is only for him, right?
Right.
Not for every player, but you would be able to sort of bring these stars and these things out a little bit.
Yes.
And for the pitchers, you could it's sort of an offshoot of payoff pitch where you could sort of choose it if you want to pitch aggressively, normally, or in a conservative way in some sort.
Well, ST, it's because we all know you, right? And the fact that if I wanted to make the 84 Cubs, I'm going to go out to Retro Sheet or I'm going to go out to Baseball Reference and I'm going to grab those stats and I'm going to put them into a spreadsheet and I will generate my team sheet in about, 45 minutes. And you will instead go to the Chicago Tribune and read through every box score for the 84 season.
Yeah.
Read through
Hence
the
is the problem with all of these things. Yes. Hence is the problem with this is that I would think about 1984, what players also just killed the Cubs.
Yeah.
And you would almost have like at the bottom, like sketches, not copyrighted pictures, but maybe sketches of some sort.
Okay.
Like AI sketches, of course, of the players who have like special talents against the Cubs in some kind of way.
Nice.
So you would have, it would just be crazy. It would be, I don't know, even with 5 pages. Every team might be like 8 pages of stuff, but it would look beautiful the way I have it in mind. It would almost be like an infographic, but like really cool infographic for every team. But that's why each team would have to be kind of released on its own.
Okay.
And nobody wants that, James.
Nobody wants that. Only
nobody wants that.
Only ST.
Nobody wants that. That's why it will forever remain an idea and it will not ever be seen. And anyway, I don't have the time to do that because I don't want to make anyone else wait on the other 3 games. So
there you go.
I don't know how else to do it alone other than to just stop at 3. And then every time I have an idea, it'll end up as like a 3-page game in the magazine or something.
Nice. That'll work.
Because I thought the skiing was going to start out as a score generator alone, but it's got a couple wrinkles in there that I think, okay, this is kind of a cool, small little game.
It was fun.
Yeah. And so I think if I ever have the urge to go outside of the 3 sports I'm already doing, that's probably the way I'll do it, is just offer it in the magazine for free.
Cool.
And stick with that. So matchup baseball will probably not ever come to fruition for that reason.
All right. That's okay. Plenty to choose from, folks. Plenty to choose from.
And if I tell you that it's coming, I want you to talk me out of it.
Okay. We'll do.
Be the rational mind.
All right, ST, I've used up a good amount of your time. My daughter is waiting for me, so I'm going to call it a wrap, and I'll see you in a couple weeks.
Hey, everybody, thank you so much for having me here tonight, and I will see all of you hopefully on the road. We will be in Connecticut in May. I think we'll be in Wisconsin in June.
Nice.
And I think we'll be in Canton in August, and we are looking at Pittsburgh. I don't know if we're going to go to the World Championships of board gaming in Pittsburgh or not. I think Keith's going to be there for a weekend. At least a weekend. And so we may do that as well because we've never been there.
Cool.
It's just get out there. Don't be worried. Don't be afraid. Get out there and meet people. You will love these conferences. Really.
Agreed.
And don't think, well, in a couple of years, I might have time, because they might not be here in a couple of years. We just don't know. We just don't know. And so, James, thank you so much for having me on the show, man.
My pleasure. We'll talk soon.
All right, cool. Thanks.
Bye.
And that's a wrap on this week's episode. Good interview with ST. Covered a lot of ground, a lot of different topics. I think the big takeaway is matchup college basketball is out. It's available. That first season set, which is the 2011 NBA, that's available. You can get that as well as all the product on Game Crafter, which includes the card set that you'll need to kind of run the game, as well as the rule book. If you want to get the spiral bound, he also has a free version of the rule book that you can download as well if you'd like to just get a PDF version of the game rules. Pretty soon we should see the next set coming out, which will be that 1985 NCAA set. And remember, these sets include about 30 teams or so. I don't know if the NBA one is the full set or not. So I don't know if he's going to do that over a course of a couple of releases. I haven't really looked at it that closely. But the 30 for the 1985 NCAA will obviously include most of like your Elite Eight, top tens. He kind of covered like what you're going to get there. And it's one of a series of releases he's planning for that 85 season so that you can get a more complete look at the entire season, including all the teams that Georgetown played. He picked Georgetown as kind of like his featured team for the 1985 season. Next week's episode, we are going to get into game management, specifically around baseball, and talk about what you kind of need to do to manage a baseball team throughout an entire 162 game season. I'm going to go through some of my tips and tricks for how I like to approach that when I'm not using like as played lineups. But until then, thanks for listening.